How are you, cousin?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well. Trying to make this work. Let's see.
Is that mascara you're wearing?
Mascara. Now, all right. So, Rafael Elias Muñoz, but on your email it says Munoz. Rafael Elias Munoz. It's
Yeah.
uh, it's a pleasure to have you here, my cousin. uh, One of the best producers, directors out there of the Dominican Republic in the movie industry, Mr. Rafael Elias Muñoz.
Thank
Yeah,
you. I'm a producer, not a director, please. But thank you. It's my pleasure to be here with you always.
thank you, Rafael Elias. So let's first of all, let me thank you for being here, and let me say this has been a the longest interview, the longest time,
The hardest. It's still
the
not the
hardest,
longest.
or
I
the
hope it's not the
hardest,
longest.
the hardest interview that I've had, to put together and sit down in front of this computer to be able for you and I to meet here and talk and have this very fun hour that's coming ahead to be able to do all this. It's been what, maybe almost a year of planning and talking and
Don't
cancel.
exaggerate. Don't exaggerate. No, it's been difficult. You're you're right on that, but it's just you are a very busy man.
Oh,
Your agenda, yeah,
I am
every.
a very busy man. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Rafa, so we all get to know you better. And it's an honor for me to be here with you and being in this interview. I mean, we grew up together. We gotta talk about the history, our history when you and I used to wear these Spider-Man suits and customs. And
I'm happy to do that. We're gonna bore everyone while we're doing it, but I'm happy to do it as long as you don't make up stories like you always
they happen, they happen.
do.
How many times did you and I get into a fight? I mean, we fought a lot, and you used to beat me
Right.
up.
I did. I actually inspired you to become the incredible fighter that you are, and I was smart enough never to pick a fight with you after you became that person.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you, I have to have a lot of patience with you.
Dude, dude, I know.
Because
Sorry, I was born this way. There's no way to fix it.
no, you're hard to beat there. You should have been a lawyer and not a movie producer.
A lot of people told me that, but I never felt like I wanted to be a lawyer. I don't know why. Uh, and I love what I do, so I'm happy I wasn't anything else.
Well, that's the best answer. And you also sing and dance. I remember when you see, I'm not making this story, okay? I'm not making this story. I
You're
remember
heading that way. You're heading that way.
when we used to dance salsa and we used to go to these dances and parties when we were what, maybe around 15 years old, 16 years old, and man, you wouldn't stop dancing. You wouldn't stop dancing salsa. And I remember the neighborhood guys call you el bailarin, because
They
you
were
you
just
always
jealous.
they
They
were
were just
just.
jealous.
Oh, so I didn't make up this story, right? Now you
Well,
remember.
yeah, I do remember that. And let me stop you there before you build on it. You know, if you're a Dominican, it's like our moms always say. If you have uh, blood from El Cibao and you can't dance, there's something wrong with you. you should be able to dance, right?
That's right. And now with the bachata being or now evolved, because I went the other day to dance bachata at a nightclub here. Oh my God, it wasn't just nothing. It was nothing like we used to dance it before. Now they do all these turns and these modern bachata. They go one and two and
Fun. I don't know how to dance it, but it's quite fun.
it
And
has
it
evolved.
looks, yeah, it's evolved, but it looks better now. I think, right?
It's
Doesn't it?
beautiful. It's always been beautiful. I like to call it. It's different styles now. The old style is still beautiful. You are my cousin. You are one of my best and most precious cousins that I have out there. It's like we're brothers. Even though sometimes I have to chase you to talk with you, right? Because you're so busy. That I've asked you how many assistants do I have to go through to talk with you now? But we grew up together, and
You've never had to talk to an assistant because I don't have assistants.
oh yeah, okay. Well, what about Google? What is it? Alexa, and the other one is Lisa, and the other one is Maria. Maria, what's the weather today? Let's tell our audience who we are, and first of all, I'm Leo Rancier. Welcome to podcast with Leo Rancier, and Rafael Elias Muñoz is here with me, and he has given me this opportunity to interview him. And you know what? It's an honor, and it's great because now we grew up together, and his mother and my mother are practically sisters. Let's go like that, not to make it too complicated. there's, there's sisters, right? So Rafa is my cousin, and even though he's older than me, yeah, even though I have this gray hair now, but he's older than me. I've
You see,
always
I tell everyone you make up stories. No one's gonna believe I'm older than you.
I welcome you, Rafael Elias, here, and we all want to hear your stories and learn from you in the professional world that you develop and work. So what is it that you do? Tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about your background. Why am I so interested in talking with you and having this interview with you, and so happy that we're here together right now?
Well, if we start backwards, I think you asked me three questions. The last one, why you are so interested, I have no clue. I don't know why you're so interested. But anyway, I'm a film producer, and most importantly, I'm the vice president of production of a company called Lantica Media, that is a Jamaican production company that owns uh, Pinewood Dominican Republic Studios. So we provide production services and studio services for films and TV shows that come to shoot in the Dominican Republic. And yeah, basically what I do is the life of a film producer. Part of my job is producing Dominican Spanish language films, and the most important part of my job is acting as the local producer, or serving as the local producer when you do production services. You basically give all the knowledge and all the logistical support to a foreign producer of how to do things in the country you are in. So I service these producers in that way, or we service, actually, the company does. Yeah, I just head the production team, and we also sell the studio space and facilities for films and TV shows that come to shoot in the Dominican Republic. And I think one of your questions was my background, which can be a long thing, but essentially, I was either blessed or doomed when I was very young because my grandmother and my grandfather own a cinema in a small town in Puerto Plata called Guananico, which you know. So I got to see the world of projection room and just the magic of filmmaking from that point of view, right? But at the same time, my father is a commercials producer and director, so I was living the production of it some way while I was growing up, right? I was even drawn to it very young. When I was 12 years old, I convinced my uncle, who's also a producer and director, and convinced him that I wanted to work in the summers when I was on vacation. So he hired me as a runner or a PA, and you know I played like I was working, but I did learn a lot that summer, and I got hooked on it. I kept I learned how to edit on an Avid when I was probably 13 or 14, and again on the weekends I would be a freelance editor for anyone who needed to edit a documentary or something and had no money. They can always call me.
Yeah, because I remember, first of all, my friends, Rafael Elias is genius in what he does, in my opinion. But it makes sense because he started so early and so young with Tio Elias, Uncle Elias, who's his father, working with him in his studio as well. So sometimes I wanted to invite him to my house. I wanted to go with him, to play basketball and to do different things. And I remember at that age, and I used to think, why is he working so much at this age? You were always working in the studio. I remember it was like, no, I'm here helping dad, or I'm here editing and doing, some work. And then I remember you would go to bed really, really late and then be still in the studio really early. So I have a lot of memories that are coming back to me now as you're describing all these things. But in the end, you are a movie producer. Is this what I'm understanding?
Yeah, yeah. I produce films, movies.
Movies. So, but you worked a lot too back in when we were teenagers. Let's call it like that. You also edited a lot of commercials. I remember, and very famous commercials in the Dominican Republic. With of different brands and famous brands out there of products and all that. I remember you in the computer doing these things, and it looked like what it would look Netflix 3000% now with different squares, one on top of the other, and this little thing, and then you go back and forth. I remember all that. So, yeah, you were also a commercial, what do you call it, editor?
Yeah, I so the film industry in the country, you could say, exists as an industry since 2011. Prior to that, there were very brave efforts from filmmakers that uh, would do maybe a film a year or one every 2 years, and for a long period of time, there was no films produced. So when the film law was issued in 2011, improved, it's kind of when the industry started. Prior to that, everyone who loved filmmaking and wanted to be a part of telling audiovisual stories somehow had to work in the advertising industry, and that's where I started.
You started,
So
I remember.
yeah, I edited for a while, and then at some point I was directing commercials for almost 10 years, I think, and
Very important
uh,
brands. I
I
remember
had
they
a lot of
were.
fun and learned a lot.
Yeah,
What?
they were famous products out there that you were actually working for, and you were also like I remember with Theo Elias. To at some point he was in charge of um, transmitting through television the country's election, presidential elections, and I worked with him at in that event. I'm not sure if you were there. I know I was there.
Yeah,
And
I
it
think
was,
yeah, I remember that. I remember that. Yeah, I worked on a couple of those because he did that. My father was like Mr. Miyagi to me, right? Like my my mentor, and at the same time he would teach me uh, in with very valuable lessons. But with like Mr. Miyagi, he would probably teach you learn how to clean this first. When you
the
learn
hard
how to
way, right?
clean and when you learn how to fold the cables, then we talk about uh,
Yeah,
filmmaking.
old school, old school. I remember one day I told Tio Elias, right, uh, Uncle Elias, I would like to be an actor, and he said, "Oh, you like to be an actor? Yes, yes, yes." And he said, "Okay." He brought me a binder with like this thick. He gave it to me and put it on the table. Start reading that, he said, and I'm like, start reading that, and can you believe I mean it's interesting. I wanted to explore the area. I wanted to see what how it worked and everything, but I wanted to start with a camera in front of me and dancing bachata or something like that, or
Yeah,
doing some,
you
jiu-jitsu
thought it
move or
was
something like that.
sexy, and you didn't need to study.
Yeah, and then he made me start reading this, and then all of a sudden I'm like reading um A, this is, and B, you have this, and A, yes, and then C comes in, and then I'm like, is this physics in letters? Like what has he given me? And he made me read that. It was interesting. So I had that experience with him. You graduated from Unive, right?
No, I didn't. I went to a PEC.
Oh, you went to a peg, and what did you study there?
I studied advertising, uh, and
Which
I
helped,
also went. Huh?
which helped with everything you do now.
A lot. I mean, I was my career was advertising essentially. So I, while I was studying advertising, I was working as a creative, as a copywriter in an ad agency, Darcy. I don't know if you remember that. Uh, and and then at some point, I can't remember which year, I went to film school in Rockport, Maine, the Maine International Film and Television Works, as I remember, and spent some time there. And
I remember you
that
went.
was very important for me because I got to share with very passionate uh, co-students and teachers and learn a lot from all of them. And I think that was the final piece that I needed to live to convince myself that what I wanted to do was uh, filmmaking.
Was filmmaking and not a basketball player, because I remember you used to play a lot of basketball too. And
Yeah,
then you would do the Jordan
yeah,
move here like this. And
yeah.
then
I mean,
this and
I
that.
think that the filmmaking didn't require the physical gifts that basketball does. So if I would have been maybe a foot taller, maybe I would have tried to become a
Pursue that.
professional basketball player.
Well,
But I love it. I love it.
I remember you. Yeah, I'm not making this story. Okay, I remember when you were sometimes kind of like frustrated because you wanted to be taller, and then
And I
you
could
would,
not.
and then you would lay down on a couch or bed, and then do this, and then and I would,
Chill. I
I
was
would.
waiting. I was waiting for the look. I think I had my uh, timer on. Like I was waiting for that moment where you make up a story like that.
No, that's true. Hey, let's tell our friends here. They used to call us la bomba atómica y la dinamita. Remember the atomic bomb and the dynamite?
Yeah, but you were
Because
the atomic bomb, definitely.
yeah, yeah, because I was a little bit fat, and rounded, and you were together. We would just destroy everything. We were so active together. It's like when people, I remember my mom and my our aunts telling us, oh my god, when you two guys used to get together and then come to a family event, everybody was like, oh, they're here, oh no, we gotta
There, there.
we gotta protect this, we gotta protect that, and then we're running. And you remember when we went to the Boy Scout too? We were Boy Scout. That's hey, we got a
That's
lot
it.
to talk about here. It's years and years, that those were good years. A lot we really learned a lot in those Boy
That's it.
Scouts trips, and we had some fun. I remember one day we were playing Nintendo. It was Super Nintendo, I think. Yeah, it was Super Nintendo, and we were playing like a baseball game, right? Do you remember that fight? Oh my god! And all of a sudden, I don't know, you're winning, you're winning. I'm like, why is this guy winning so much? And you must be cheating. And then you're winning. Then I got upset, and then you were also kind of hard headed and arrogant. Oh yeah, yeah. What do you want?
I
You know,
wasn't arrogant. Nah, come
hey,
on.
shut up, shut up. And then all of a sudden we started fighting. Then it was like 2 a.m. in the morning, and you and I were like punching each other in our faces like that. And my dad, remember, my dad comes and he's like behind like a column. He goes, "What's going on out there?" And you were giving me a hard time. That's why I enrolled myself in jiu-jitsu classes, because I couldn't beat you. You were hard, and then I needed to learn some techniques. That was young. but
That's
then
not true.
but then you went to the artistic side, and then you started learning how to dance better, learning how to sing. You also sing. I remember you're a singer, Rafael Elias. You used to sing at different bars, right? Remember that?
Yeah, I like singing.
I,
Yeah, I enjoy. I love music. Love music.
and
So
you're a good
yeah,
singer. Yeah.
you're making me blush.
Yeah. Well, can you
Of
sing something? Can you sing something here,
course not. Of course
please?
not.
So, Rafa, tell us a little bit about how you that moment when you were working with Tio Elias, right? Tell us a little bit about that period of your professional life, because that was the period that I actually, well, from the university to now your current job, I haven't been close to you. I know, a lot of years have passed, and we have a lot of beautiful memories from when we were young. But as years passed, then we both went our separate ways with life's duties and responsibilities. I mean, you got married. Um, good luck. But I know
I'm a lucky bastard.
you're
I don't know if she's as lucky, but I'm lucky.
you're lucky. Yes, yes. And you love each other. You love your wife. I mean, you invited me to the wedding, but we were in the Dominican Republic, and the wedding wasn't where, in Italy, in Milan
Yeah.
or something like that. I'm like, when I received your invitation, I'm like, is this a joke? What is he saying? Is he going to get married in Italy and we're in the Dominican Republic? How the hell am I gonna get there?
Let me see. So when I was studying, when I started working as a copywriter, sorry, I spent a couple of years there, learned a lot about advertising and from the point of view of the client and just the necessary exercise to then become a filmmaker, I think, which is to learn how to write a story, a script, and then trust in the vision of someone else. Make sure you choose the right uh, director or the right person to execute that project, to tell that story visually. And I think I learned that there, right? Because working as a copywriter, it's what I had to do. I wouldn't get to direct or produce that commercial. I had to uh, basically stick to writing it and then supervising the shoot and the production. And it helped me get to see a lot of different directors and producers working, not just the experience I've had as a kid, but you know, other people that have different ways of doing things, different techniques of directing actors, and I learned as a sponge. I was learning a lot from them. And then at some point, my dad uh, needed an editor and someone to also help as an assistant director. And I already felt like my adventure as a copywriter was probably over because I really wanted to be a filmmaker, and I went to work with him. So I used to edit all of the commercials he directed and produced, and also as an editor, I would continue learning, right, from the mistakes, because in the editing room you get to see all the mistakes and then you discriminate and choose what is actually going to work and help you tell the story. But you learn a lot from the mistakes as well as from the makes, right? So from the good decisions that you
Yeah,
get to see when you look at the raw material. Uh,
yeah,
and
because
also, I think you learn a lot about story, visual storytelling, because uh, everything that you do to film the scenes, uh, the way or the place or the moment where it becomes logical or where it tells a story is back in the cutting room. So it started in the script, right? Obviously, the script is probably the most important thing, in the sense that it's where the film starts. It's the basis of the film. If it's not a good script, uh, it doesn't matter. I think it doesn't matter who the director is. It's very hard to fix it. Uh, but again, I'm sorry if I'm going all over. But I learned a lot as an editor, and then I fell in love with uh, the opportunity of directing it, because the commercials, because I felt that I've always felt that I can understand performers and the job that they need to do to uh, become a character. So I felt I could do well directing actors. So I started. directing commercials for a long time, but also especially in the Dominican Republic, but probably everywhere. When in commercials, you have to,
Sorry to
you're not only,
interrupt. Rafa.
sorry.
Sorry to interrupt. We're talking here the moment that you were working with your dad, with
Yeah,
Dios, which was when you were what age? Probably like around 16 years of age.
no, 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 no. We're talking when I was 21 in college
Mm.
and already working as an editor, and then eventually when I was 25, I think I started directing. Sorry, maybe younger, but can't remember now. uh,
And,
anyway,
and you were directing commercials
yes,
and editing them because I remember that you used to spend
yeah,
hours,
yeah. That's what
hours.
I was about to say. That I had to do everything. I had to produce. Well, not everything, but a lot of things. Right?
Well,
Produce,
welcome to my world. When I
direct, and
was,
edit.
when I had Rancier Kainan, I had to do many things, and my staff helped me a lot. But in the end, I was the trainer, the CEO, the marketing manager, the accountant, the finance guy. I was
Yeah.
now, and now I'm doing the same with the podcast. I'm the one who edited, produced it. I put the camera here, the light, and all that. I learned that from you.
Yeah. It was funny how when we started the call, you had a lighting set and you thought you looked old, so you decided to turn it off and just open the windows.
Yeah, I'm not gonna put this in. I'm gonna cut this. Okay.
So when for the years I spent directing commercials and editing them and producing them, I I think it helped me a lot to become a producer because it helped me understand the job that the director had to do, and why it was so important to do every possible effort to put all the possible resources on screen, give the director and the creative team of any project the support and your uh, and sacrifice yourself, your time, everything to make sure that if you chose the right creative head, the director, that you support his vision or her vision, right? Uh, or their vision to be more than one person. And I learned that being a director or working as a director, that I recognized the support that was necessary and the need of a partner. Maybe 2 years prior, we started in MTV, our family company that my father owned, and I was his partner, so we co-owned, I guess.
I remember.
We started doing production services, and we drew a lot of big foreign commercials to the country, and we worked as their production service company in the DR, right? And while I was doing that, I found that first it was really good business because our country has a lot to offer in terms of locations, in terms of talent, and now in terms of incentives. But in that time, we offered a lot as a destination. We were, and we still are, the biggest touristic destination in the region, in the Caribbean region, right? So it was also very natural for us to give good service, to be a good destination, to translate that to the production world. So I started understanding that it was good business, that we should continue to do it and focus on it. And at that point, maybe 2 years after providing production services, was when I heard about the film studio that was going to be built, Pinewood, right? So I asked for a meeting with the with the COO, now the COO, but with Albert Martinez Martin, who is another one of my two mentors in life, and someone I admire a lot and have learned a lot from and love too. And but back then, he was just the guy that was running the studio, or the project of the studio that was going to be built. And I think my dad also, he was running already. Yeah, he was running an NGO that's called SSA, which is a training initiative that is majority funded by Lantica, and the group that I now work in, right? And I asked him to get me a meeting with Albert because I wanted to uh, set up or rent an office space so we could set up MTV production services in the studio, because I felt like once that studio is built, it's gonna be a really amazing asset to attract productions from everywhere in the world. So I wanted to be there, right? And in that meeting, well, I was in my head negotiating with Albert the office rental. I think he was really interviewing me for a job, right? So when I left the meeting, I don't know if it was an hour or 2 hours later, he called me and he said that he wanted me to work with him. And that's when.
Well, he actually detected how good you were, and he realized how good you were, and how or where your vision was. So I would have done the same, by the way. I would have done, let me offer him a job before it is too late, and he can help us grow, which is what you're doing right now. Because I've seen and I've heard that you've produced a lot of movies already, working at Lantica, and also you've even won awards already. And when was it? It was like 2 years ago or something like that. That you won a really, really good and prestigious award, and then I called you to congratulate you, and then I said, you're like, yeah, thank you, and then all of a sudden I say, it took you so long, it took you a long time to get that award. So what were you thinking? You should have gotten it like 10 years ago. It's because you're good at your job, you're good at what you do. I was that was funny. So yeah, I mean, I'm glad that he actually and they actually realized who you were, Rafael Elias, and since you were a little kid, you just loved movie producing and being an editor and directing and talking, like, okay, I want to do this, I want to do that, I have that project in mind, always talking about movies. And I used to think, man, what is he thinking? Why doesn't he hire me as an actor then? It's like, and then you always used to say, oh, because you always found something. Oh, because your hair is like this. Oh, because you don't do this like this. Oh, because you need to dance better. Like, what? I'm gonna have to go ask for a job somewhere else then. So Rafa, tell us about the movies that you've produced so far, and the ones that you actually love the most working. I know every movie, if it's like every project that I have been in, and every, for example, dog that I train, every movie has its own personality and experience. Let's call it like that, right? Or its own, let's say, soul, right? So its own planning, budgeting, the hiring process, operation, and depending on how big it is, um, it's things could are happen really big there. Can you tell us about that operation, and the best movies that you actually produced that you feel that you have to talk about them because they touch you,
I think that it's like you said. It's I don't have favorites. I I love and learn from every project a lot. But something very important is that I'm not only producing movies at Lantica. I'm the most time consuming and the most important part of the job for Lantica as well is that we provide production services. So from those projects as well, if you think about it, before 2011, it was unimaginable in our country that we would have a film industry. Uh, and now we not only have a local film industry that produces about 35 Dominican films a year, which is incredible. But we're also a destination for major Hollywood productions. That is something that's really incredible, important, relevant, and that for someone like me that's been working more than 20 years in the industry, it feels like epic, like historic, like we are at a point in our industry where 20 or 50 years from now we'll be talking about this moment and how we got here, right? And I think that's also very motivating for me. To give you an example, last year we brought, when I started studying film and wanting to be a filmmaker, one of the directors that I loved, that I felt like was unarguably one of the most talented directors in the world, was David Fincher. And last year we got to work with David Fincher. Like, he came to shoot a film in the country. And, for not only for me, but for a lot of people who admire his work, it was an experience that you definitely needed to take with the attitude of learning and capturing everything you can from him and his wife, who is an amazing producer, and everyone who works with him that are just top level professionals in the film industry in the world. And we also, we in the same year we serviced $100 million Hollywood production, a Paramount film with Sandra Bullock, Brad Pitt. Just imagine this, Leo, when you were a kid and you always were saying that you wanted to look like Brad Pitt, but we all knew that was impossible. And
Well,
the guy, and the guy was here filming.
I used to say, well, not really looking like Brad Pitt,
Yeah, he can't go that low.
but at least moving like Steven Seagal. That's something I wanted to accomplish. You know?
Okay.
and
Well, everyone has their dreams, right?
And kicking like Van Damme, a few kicks at least. That's something I wanted to accomplish, And I think I've accomplished some of it, yeah, because they're masters, but they're also.
Well, you can't dance like Van Damme.
I have to practice this. You see?
Like I was saying, just think of having constantly, frequently, every year for the last 4 years projects like these in our country, and just what it does, not only as an inspiration artistically and professionally for everyone in the community and the industry, but the economic impact that it has in the country, the amount of jobs it generates, it's just like this virtuous, very, very positive thing that's happening to the country. And, you know, we are a part of it. I'm a part of it. And that's very motivating. And, you know, from the films that I've been blessed to produce for Lantica, I think the best thing is the experience that I've had collaborating with talents like Laura Amelia Guzman and Israel Cárdenas, like Jose Maria Cabral, who is so talented, like Leticia Tonos and Noelia Quintero, Rita Indiana. And these are the filmmakers that we're talking about, but also the actors and actresses. And you know, a guy that is very important for us and for our success is Willem Perez. He's a Dominican artist, art director and production designer that I met while I was working directing commercials long ago. And he came to be the art director. He used to live in Puerto Rico. He came to be the art director of a commercial I was directing, and I met him there. And then years later, we have him be the mentor and teacher for practically all the very good scenic artists that we now have, that he developed together with the program that was organized by SSA and ran by my father, and, you know, sponsored by Lantica, obviously. So it's just really, Leo, what I love most about this is the collaboration with people that are so passionate and talented and have the same sickness that I have, which is that we love this without reason, and we work like there's no ending to it, right?
It's magic. It's wonder. It's in the end when you put that on the big screen, when you put all your work on the TV or any place that you can see what you guys do, it's magic. This is why they call it a wonder. From the moment it gets created and written to the moment that you guys launch the final product out there, and how it looks, the work and the dynamic of the teams and the actors, and even the guy that even brings you water, the person that cleans the set, the makeup artist, the editor, the sound professional, and all that. I think it's beautiful. It's magic how you guys do that. Now, where does the money come from many times to fund these movies and these projects? You know, I like in my episodes, I tend to talk a lot about what we do and make it fun and entertaining, but at the same time, I like to talk about business. So this is why I always ask about money, right? And where the business comes from, where it's going, and all that. Where did these fundings come from when you guys do this?
Different sources. I think there's maybe the more important thing to do is to start by explaining how the Dominican film law works, so you can get a sense of the different to different scenarios of funding that you can have. So the film law has a lot of articles, but essentially two are based on tax incentives. One is Article 34 of the film law, and the other one is Article 39. Article 34 is designed and thought for Dominican films, and it allows Dominican companies to invest on films, and then once their taxes due, they can use that investment as part of their tax payments, right? So what the government does there is foster the growth of an industry by allowing investors to use this equity or capital to produce films, and then recognizes that investment as part of their tax payments. And Article 39 is different. It's thought more for foreign productions, right? And what it does is, in a nutshell, every dollar that you spend in a country, at the end, the country is going to give you back 25 cents in a tax credit that we have to sell to Dominican taxpayers. And it's very competitive. It's very important, and it's the major reason why we have a film industry, because it's drawing incredible productions from all over the world to come here and use this incentive. There's basically every jurisdiction in the world where there's a film community or that are film destinations that other production companies in the world go to make films. It's because probably because they have a tax credit or a tax rebate. It's very unlikely that if you don't incentivize it, that you'll be able to capture the incredible amount of productions that are shot all over the world. But
the funding, like the money for these movies, where do they come from? It's always a question that I've had. Does it come from investors, organizations? Because the movie industry is a multi-million-dollar industry. So I'm impressed how much money the actors make, for example, to just give you an example. I mean, I don't know too much about it, but it's an industry where you spend a lot of money, you have high costs, and also people pay a lot for these movies too, and shows and movie theater, and now all the streaming and everything that's out there, Disney Plus, Netflix, and Amazon Prime, and all these HBO and all these let's say networks. But where do you guys get the money to make a movie, for example?
Yeah, it depends on if you're talking about in the rest of the world, not the Dominican Republic. There's going to be two types of productions: independent productions and studio productions, right? So the studio productions, which are normally the biggest productions and with the highest budget, are funded by the studios. And they have a full business model where obviously they calculate at some point the amount of projects that could be a flop versus what projects that could earn a lot of money, but it's a gamble, like every business, right? They're investing, and the studios normally the best thing they have for them is that their business model not only includes uh, production, right? So normally it extends to distribution, and it helps them have the different uh, steps of the value chain, right? So, and the independents are much harder to finance because it, it's always also an estimation of the value once you have a film based on the talent that will be attached to the film, and uh, and then you have to go out to find equity, uh, to find funds that some countries have, to find bank loans to cover gaps, or and go to a place like the DR where you'll get a tax credit or a tax rebate or a cash rebate after you produce the film. So you put all that together. It's a long conversation, but it's much more complicated for independent movies because the risk is much bigger.
Oh, yeah.
And you know,
The
there's yeah.
sorry that I interrupted you, but the actors get paid by the studio, right? Do they make a percentage? Do they is it a salary? Is it a contract period? How do they do it? I've always
there's
been curious about this question.
there's
If you brought Brad Pitt, let's say, Brad Pitt said, okay, how do you pay him? Do you Does he charge you $1 million for a week, or does he go by a salary? What's the way you guys do it there? It's an interesting question, right?
yeah, like every other business, talent, there's no one way to do things, right? Or one way to do business with them. Uh, but actors and actresses are normally the most important asset economically that the film has. So that gives them important leverage too. It's not the same if you have the same script and the same director for a film, and that film is with Leo Rancier as the leading actor, and I have the same script and the same director to do that film with Brad Pitt, then obviously my film could cost much more because the probability of my film making more money over the project with Leo Rancier is higher, right? Not because you're not equally talented, but because you haven't been able to prove it to the world, and the world doesn't recognize you like they recognize Brad Pitt. But
We're working on that. Let me
yeah,
interrupt you. We're working on that. What I'm understanding is that it depends on the type of agreement,
negotiation. Yeah,
negotiation that you do. But in the end, what I'm understanding is that you guys do it by contract. It's a contract. It's a
of
movie
course.
contract. That's it for a period of time. Let's
Yeah.
say this movie is gonna go for 4 weeks, and we're gonna pay you this amount of money for 4 weeks. And what happens if it goes 6 weeks? Then you have some in reserve, and then maybe you renegotiate. Is that the way it works?
Yeah, could be. Or you just make a deal for the movie regardless of how many weeks it takes to shoot. Uh, but there's many different ways, many different variables. Think of it this way: if you're a studio, you have uh, all the resources to make the deal that guarantees that all the rights are yours after the film is completed. That your gamble, if that gamble is turns positive, if it's profitable, that you make the most out of it. Your inclination is to make a deal with everyone where you buy all the rights, where you do not give back end points, and you try to pay uh, the highest fee possible to secure all that. But if you're an independent producer, then you might look at it and like, let's be partners of this project. Brad Pitt. If you love the project, if you believe in the project, if you think we can do something amazing together, then let's be partners. I can't pay you the many millions that you should be paid because you are amazing, but I could probably pay you a couple of 100,000, and, and then I give you back end, and we are partners, and we and
in,
that's
in
very common.
in a percentage too. So they could make a percentage of the income.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's interesting. We could have these conversations and go deeper and deeper and maybe get more technical and get more interesting. And this is why I would my one of my visions is to keep this podcast show on online on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, and keep re-inviting you guys so we can keep talking about what we talked in the first interview. Rafael Elias, just one last question because we need to go. So tell us about the movies. You haven't answered that question. Tell us a few movies that you've produced that have been a great experience to work with, like the names.
Well, right now uh, we're shooting a movie called La Cigüeña. Uh, it's the original story script is by a British writer director called James Loss, and it's been adapted by Alejandro Andújar, who directed El Hombre que Cuida and El Blanco, and is one of our great voices in the country. Um, I also produced two of Jose Maria Cabral's films, Hotel Copelia, which you can find on HBO Max, and in Latin America you'll be able to find soon on Sony platforms and through via Sony because they've acquired the rights for Latin America. In Europe, you can also find it on HBO Max. And another of Jose Maria's films, which is now touring festivals, is Parsley. Uh, and one of the really rewarding projects that I was lucky to be a part of is uh, Beauty Kingdom. Spanish title is La Fiera y la Fiesta. It was uh, produced by uh, Gabriel Tineo, by Laura Amelia Guzman, and Israel Cárdenas, who co-directed the movie, and by myself. Uh, and that film was selected in Berlinale in 2018. So that I think that's what you were referring to earlier. Uh, that is an incredible honor. The first Dominican film in Berlinale, which is one of the world's most important film festivals, right? So, and many more other movies that you can find on IMDb if you just search for Rafael Elias Muñoz.
If we just search for your name, we'll find that. I know you've worked with Vin Diesel as well, right? I remember.
Yeah, well, that was long ago.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I remember.
uh,
Send me a
yeah.
picture.
He came to. direct a short film for one of the Fast and the Furious films. I don't remember. They did the short film. I think it was for the DVD. It was called Los Mandoleros, and it was kind of an explanation of where Dom Toretto's character was for the Fast and Furious 2 or 3 or 4, where that didn't happen. And he was directing and acting. The local producer was Juan Basanta, and I was an assistant director long ago, together with Ivan Herrera, who is also great. And yeah, that's when I met Vin. And then he came back in 2015, if I recall, to do Triple X3. And I was already in Lantica, and we were the production service company and the studio, because they shot all the water sequences in our water tank. Yeah. He's a incredibly fun guy.
Nice.
Not a character.
Nice. I bet he speaks like this, when, he speaks, "Hey, Rafael, how are you? How are you?" Rafael Elias Muñoz. Thank you, Rafael Elias Muñoz, for being here in this hour with us on podcast with Leo Rancier. You made me change the name. You made me change the name. It was you. It was you that made me change the name. It's like, Rafael Elias and I met one day to eat breakfast, and he's like, "You ought to change that podcast name because it's too long." I thought about it, and I said, "What is this guy gonna know about all this? About producing and about editing and about directing and all that. Oh, he doesn't know what he's talking about." But you know what? I might listen to him. It's a good idea. So podcast with Leo Rancier. Thank you, guys. Thank you for being there. Thank you, Rafael Elias, for being here with me and with us. And we hope to have you here again soon, because we want to ask you more questions. I bet there are a lot of students of in the film industry out there that would love to ask you questions and hear your other interviews, and also professionals in the area, because we are growing. Right now, we are becoming better and better every day. Thank you for being here, my friend, my cousin, my brother. And thank you guys for being there. And this is great. A lot of interesting professionals we bring to the show, and let's take advantage of them and learn from them and ask them questions, because every time I interview one of them, I just learn a lot. Learn from each one. Thank you, Rafael Elias. Thank you. Yes.